Hi friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan. Stereotypes, the catalyst of most bar fights and the cause of many deaths by blunt trauma. Like eating a deep fried pork in front of their own kind, we all know it's wrong, but yet we still indulge ourselves from time to time. A few episodes ago, we started talking about stereotypes of individuals from different planets in Star Wars. We started off the series by looking at desirable planets to live on like Naboo and Alderaan. And now we'll be continuing this series by looking at people from a terrible planet that no one wants to live on, Tatooine. People from Tatooine look dusty. Even if you manage to clean them up, give them a haircut and a new set of clothing, there's still something about the sand there that just clings to the body and eventually works its way through the skin and just melts into one's DNA. Sure, what I just said is not really scientific, but if you ever met a Tatooian, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And it's kind of sad in their lives are terrible, but thank God I don't live there kind of way. Ironically, Tatooine was once a vibrant and beautiful planet full of large oceans, lush jungles, and all that's left of them now are just vast salt flats and seas of sand dunes. Legends say long ago an ancient empire had invaded Tatooine and glassed the planet's surface, killing off most of life. Yet somehow, things still seem to live on Tatooine. Some people even say Tatooine is one of the oldest planets in the galaxy to continuously have life. And that life, like Mickey Rourke's face, is tough, leathery, and stubborn. While most colonization attempts by settlers and corporations seem to have failed, individuals keep finding themselves one by one coming to the planet for one reason or another. But they're all drawn by the fact that the planet was far in the outer rim and away from the prying eyes of the Republic and later the Empire. The only significant presence of power on the planet was the Hutt clans, and as long as you didn't interfere in their business dealings, they wouldn't bother you back. While it's wrong to say that most Tatooians are criminals, most likely they are the descendants of criminals. Like Australians, or if you really aren't associated to a criminal, you're most likely hiding or running away from something, or if you're really unlucky, you're a slave. That's right, despite the Galactic Republic's stringent anti-slavery laws, Tatooine was so far on the edge of the galaxy that it routinely was practiced here. And if you go up to a Tatooine and confront them about it, most of them will just shrug it off as a way of life. It's not that they're cruel or that they don't really care. It's possible it could go both ways. They could be working in the slave trade, or maybe they really hate slave trading. Either way, Tatooians know how to keep out of each other's business. Because one, there aren't really any lawkeepers on the planet, just your random vigilantes roaming the desert, and an eccentric old man who occasionally got into rage-fueled rampages. And two, everyone, and I mean everyone, was armed with a weapon, whether that's a blaster or even an old-fashioned slug-thrower rifle. So what might be a simple argument on a different planet will turn into a shootout on Tatooine. But do try to look past their hard exteriors. Tatooians are generally good people. Most of them are salt-of-the-earth types, making an honest living squeezing moisture out of the air with condensers, which basically sums up just how terrible and not built for life Tatooine is. Most off-worlders don't get life on Tatooine. Why would someone choose to live there? Well, if they're not on the run from someone, most likely they just don't have enough money to make it off-world or enough savings or connections to make a living anywhere else. And during the Imperial period, most citizens had to have ID cards in order to get a legit job, and let's be honest, most people on Tatooine were living off the grid. On top of that, whatever frugal earnings your average moisture farmer made, they could expect the Hutts to skim a little off the top. And if you don't pay the Hutts, or it's been an extremely dry year, you can expect the Hutts to send a few thugs to your property to collect what you owe in the form of credits, machinery, or even limbs, if you truly don't have anything. And if the Hutts don't get you, the roaming bands of Tusken Raiders will. They're basically xenophobic religious Luddites that roamed around killing anyone who wasn't them, and they also worship water. But despite how crappy this planet is, the people still seem pretty good-natured. There's something about struggling to survive on a daily basis that prevents certain negative personality traits that individuals who are too used to comfort usually have. These were humble and simple people, frugal individuals who couldn't afford to waste resources because of their situation. This meant they wore second-handed clothing with patches all over. They were constantly getting their hands greasy with machine oil trying to repair moisture evaporators or ancient speeders. Like most farming cultures, Tatooians were also very creative, having to constantly tinker with their machines and improvise on the spot. And when they had some spare time, they took their mechanical skills and creativity and built all sorts of custom machines, from androids to pod racers, the latter of which were basically just a gigantic pair of engines with a seat strapped onto it. Tatooians, and I mean this in the most endearing way, were the rednecks of the Outer Rim. On top of their love of going fast in vehicles held together by chewing gum and the Force, Tatooians were also known for indulging in all sorts of conspiracy theories. Walk in any bar in Mos Eisley and you're almost guaranteed to hear a hushed conversation about how Emperor Palpatine was actually a Sith Lord, and the destruction of Jedha City wasn't a mining accident, it was caused by a giant super laser. Or my personal favorite, famed hero of the rebellion Luke Skywalker was actually having incestual relations with Princess Leia of Alderaan. Well guys, that is your stereotypical Tatooine, and remember, it is a stereotype, so it doesn't mean it's true. I mean, you might find a Tatooian who isn't dusty, who's not a criminal, and maybe is not a good mechanic, but most likely not. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget to subscribe and like us on Facebook. Thanks for joining us today. If you're watching this, you are Generation Tech.